Let's get right into it. Number 10. Drinking water. Imagine casually telling a medieval person that you drink 8 glasses of plain water every day. They'd look at you like you just admitted to eating dirt for breakfast. Medieval people thought drinking plain water was about as smart as licking a stranger's boot, and they weren't entirely wrong. Their water sources were basically nature's toilet bowl. Rivers were used as both drinking sources and medieval toilets. Wells were often dug too close to cesspits. It was like a horror show buffet of bacteria, so instead of water, they drank alcohol. Lots of it. From breakfast to bedtime, everyone was slightly buzzed. Even kids were drinking watered-down beer and wine. The medieval version of stay hydrated was stay tipsy, and it actually worked better than drinking water. The fermentation process killed a lot of the nasty stuff that would have made them sick. To them, watching you drink tap water would be like us watching someone drink from a gas station toilet. Number 9. Eating tomatoes. Imagine sitting down for a nice medieval dinner. The chef brings out this exotic new fruit from the Americas, the tomato. You take one bite, and congratulations, you've just signed up for a slow and painful death. Back then, people thought tomatoes were straight-up poison. They called them devil's fruit, because they looked like deadly nightshade berries. But the tomatoes weren't actually killing anyone. It was the fancy pewter plates the rich people were eating off of. These plates were packed with lead, and tomatoes are super acidic. So when rich people ate tomatoes off their fancy plates, the acid would leach out the lead and poison their food. Meanwhile, poor people eating off wooden plates were totally fine. It's probably the only time in history where being poor actually saved your life. This went on for over 200 years. That's 2 centuries of people pointing at tomatoes going, "That's the devil's work," while literally eating off of poison plates. Number 8. Taking a hot shower. Imagine stepping into your steamy morning shower, feeling that warm water hit your skin. Well, if you did that in medieval times, people would think you were trying to kill yourself. Medieval folks had this wild idea that hot water was basically opening up a bunch of tiny doors in your skin. They believed diseases traveled through bad air, invisible death clouds floating around everywhere. So when you took a hot shower, you were basically throwing open thousands of tiny welcome mats for death to walk right in. The hotter the water, the wider these pores would open, and the more likely you to catch something nasty. Medieval doctors would look at your morning shower routine the same way we'd look at someone licking a hospital floor. They weren't totally against being clean. They just thought hot water was like playing Russian roulette with your health. Public bathhouses did exist, but people were super careful about water temperature. They basically thought they were dealing with some kind of invisible death soup. Number 7. Eating our daily sugar. Imagine dropping a medieval peasant into your local Starbucks. They'd probably die before finishing their frappuccino. In medieval times, people ate about 2 pounds of sugar per year. That's what the average American now eats in just 4 to 5 days. We're basically walking sugar factories compared to medieval folks. Their idea of a sweet treat was finding a beehive that hadn't been claimed by bears yet. If you suddenly dropped a medieval peasant into our world and gave them our daily sugar intake, their body would basically short-circuit. Their pancreas would be like, what in the actual hell is happening right now? It'd be like trying to power a candle with a nuclear reactor. They'd probably go into diabetic shock faster than you can say, pass the candy. Back then, sugar was so precious, people kept it locked up like jewelry. Now we're basically swimming in the stuff, and our bodies have somehow adapted to not instantly die from it. Number 6. Eating refrigerated food. Imagine showing a medieval peasant your fridge. They'd probably think you're some kind of wizard keeping dead animals fresh for weeks. Back then, if meat didn't start smelling funky after a day, something was seriously wrong. They'd see your week-old chicken breast and assume you've made a deal with the devil. Medieval folks had a simple rule. If it's not rotting when it should be, it's probably cursed. They did have their own ways of keeping food edible, though. They'd dry stuff in the sun, smoke it, or dump enough salt on it to give a horse a heart attack, but the food always changed. So when they'd see your perfectly preserved yogurt from 2 weeks ago, they'd think you're practicing some dark refrigeration magic. They'd be like, this cheese hasn't turned green, which, to them, food that refused to rot was like a silent killer. They thought it would rot you from the inside instead. Number 5. Taking antibiotics. Imagine giving a medieval peasant some modern antibiotics. At first, they'd probably praise you as some kind of wizard healer, but then things would get ugly real fast. You see, medieval people had gut bacteria that were basically tiny superheroes. These microscopic champions could handle anything. Moldy bread, week-old meat, that mysterious stew that's been sitting in the pot since last Tuesday. But antibiotics are like dropping a nuke on your gut bacteria. They don't care if it's good bacteria or bad bacteria. They kill everything. Suddenly, our medieval friend's stomach is about as useful as a knight without armor. Without their specialized gut bacteria, even their normal daily meals would become deadly. Their digestive system would basically throw up its hands and say, "I quit." The infection they were trying to treat might not even kill them, but the antibiotics definitely would. It's like trying to fix a scratch on your car by setting it on fire. Number 4. Using aluminum foil. Imagine showing up to a medieval feast with your leftover pizza wrapped in aluminum foil. You'd probably get executed on the spot for wasting what they considered more precious than gold. Back then, aluminum was so rare that kings would flex on each other with aluminum plates and cups. It was basically the medieval equivalent of eating off solid platinum while wiping your mouth with $100 bills. Kings would literally display aluminum next to their crown jewels. That's how precious this stuff was. And here we are, wrapping our half-eaten burritos in it and tossing it in the trash. The average medieval peasant would have a heart attack watching you scrunch up aluminum foil to clean your grill. They'd be like, "That piece of metal could have bought my entire village." That's like walking into medieval times and using the Holy Grail as a coffee mug. If you showed up with a roll of Reynolds wrap, you'd probably become instant royalty, until they executed you for witchcraft, because how else could you make metal so thin and shiny? Number 3. Using electricity. Imagine casually walking up to a medieval peasant and telling them you have lightning trapped in your walls. They'd probably try to burn you at the stake right there, but that's basically what we do every single day. Every time you flip a light switch, you're channeling what medieval people thought was literal divine power. These people saw lightning as God's way of saying, "I'm angry at that specific tree right there." So the idea of keeping some of God's anger in your walls would seem completely insane to them. You've got this invisible force running through your house that can create light, heat, and even cook your food. To medieval folks, that's not technology. That's straight-up witchcraft. Medieval priests would have a heart attack watching you charge your phone. You're telling me you captured God's wrath and are using it to power your pocket demon? We're so used to it that we don't even think twice about it. We just walk around our homes, surrounded by insulated divine power, using it to watch cat videos. Number 2. Not wearing protective charms. Imagine walking around medieval Europe without your lucky charms. These people took their protective gear seriously. No religious medal around your neck meant you might as well write "Demon's Snack" on your forehead. Walking around without protective charms was like going to war wearing nothing but a smile. They had charms for everything: herbs to ward off evil, medals to protect from curses, and special eye-shaped amulets to deflect the evil eye. The evil eye was basically medieval Instagram. One wrong look and your whole life could go downhill. People genuinely believed that without these charms, demons would show up faster than your relatives at a free buffet. Even babies weren't safe. Medieval parents would deck their newborns out like tiny Christmas trees with protective charms, because apparently, demons had a thing for baby souls. If something bad happened to you, anything from stubbing your toe to catching the plague, everyone would blame your missing protective garlic necklace. Number 1. Surgery with anesthesia. You're in medieval Europe, and you need surgery. Your doctor says, "Don't worry, we'll just put you to sleep first." You'd probably start screaming and running away. Because back then, being knocked out during surgery wasn't just scary, it was a ticket to losing your soul. Medieval people believed that when you're awake, your mind acts like a bouncer for your soul. But the moment you lose consciousness, that's like leaving the club's back door wide open. They thought evil spirits were just hanging around hospitals, waiting for someone to pass out so they could snatch their soul. So what did medieval doctors do instead? They'd just strap you down and start cutting. Yeah, you'd feel everything, but hey, at least your soul was safe. Sometimes they'd drill holes in your skull while you were wide awake. Some believed this gave the evil spirits causing your illness an escape route. So there you are, fully conscious, while someone's playing Home Depot with your head. When modern anesthesia was finally invented, people were still terrified of it. Entire families would refuse life-saving surgeries because they were convinced their loved one's soul would get snatched by demons. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.